Coming up on Network Africa, Kenyan election official dies in unclear circumstances as the electoral body reveals attempted attack on its personnel. The UK High Commissioner in Kenya denies meddling in the country's just concluded election. Plus, Angola election campaign wrap up ahead of Wednesday's general election. Hello and a warm welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in Kenya, where an election official who was in charge of a constituency in the just concluded election has collapsed and died. Jeffrey Gitobu was at the electoral body's offices in Nanyuki town, that's in central Kenya, when he collapsed and was pronounced dead at a hospital near the office. He was in charge of elections in Gichugu constituency in the Kirinyaga county in central Kenya. Well, the official's death comes days after another officer in charge of a constituency in the capital Nairobi was tortured and murdered after disappearing from a tallying center. The Electoral Commission's chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, had earlier said the officers were being intimidated and threatened over the 9th August general election. Well, Kenya's electoral body has revealed that there was an attempted attack on its personnel who were preparing responses to the presidential election petitions that have been filed. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, said an organized group of goons wielding crude weapons were repulsed by security at their premises. 9 election petitions, including one by opposition leader Raila Odinga, were filed at the Supreme Court on Monday and will be determined within 14 days. Well, the IEBC is a respondent in all the election petitions. The body is mandated to conduct general elections in the country, and its declaration of Deputy President William Ruto as president-elect after the 9th August elections is being challenged in court. The UK High Commissioner, Jane Marriott, has dismissed claims that she and her country interfered in Kenya's recently concluded elections. Ms. Marriott was reacting to allegations on social media that she pressured the Electoral Commission to declare William Ruto as president-elect following the disputed poll. Well, in a series of tweets, Ms. Marriott said the UK does not support nor have a view on any candidates or parties in elections, terming the claims misinformation. She adds that who Kenyans elect is a matter for the people of Kenya, and the High Commission met with people from across the political spectrum to explain the UK's programs and partnerships with Kenya, including independent institutions. According to Ms. Marriott, Kenya would remain a vital UK partner, adding that Britain is ready to support the leaders elected by the people. Well, after Raila Odinga filed a petition contesting this August 9th election, the Supreme Court of Kenya now has 14 days to give its verdict. Upon the submission of Mr. Odinga's petition, the nation's highest court verdict after final days is final, and after 14 days, is final and binding, and that is according to the constitution of the country. Well, as Kenyans await the court's decision, there are 3 possible outcomes that could play out. The court could invalidate or nullify the election results and order a fresh election within 60 days. 2, they can critique the process but conclude that there isn't enough evidence to overturn the result, meaning that the presidential inauguration to swear in William Ruto will take place in 14 days, and that's after the initial announcement of the results. Or finally, the court can uphold the election if they find that it was in line with the Constitution. Well, in reaching its decision, the court may need to review the ballots, and that includes a recount of the votes. The legal challenge is to be presided now over by Kenya's first female justice, Chief Justice Martha Koome, who is known to have built her career defending dissidents. She was appointed in May 2021 by outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta and has a reputation for integrity. Kenyan journalist Abby Agina joins us now for more. Thank you, Abby, for speaking to us. What more can you tell us? Let's begin with the death of the IBC official. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, thanks for having me. And so far, the news of the demise of the returning officer for Kirinyaga County has caught the attention of the country, and this has opened up a Pandora's box, even as various quarters, human rights bodies have come out calling for speedy investigations into how did this election official lose his life. He comes from an area which is perceived to be one of the strongholds of the president-elect in regards to the popular vote which he got from the central Kenya region. This issue has seen quite a number of members of the other camp calling for uh, investigations that will be able to bring to book the perpetrators who committed the heinous act of eliminating this election official. So IBC has, of course, issued its condolence message on the same. And the matter is still very fluid in the country. We haven't had much from the electoral body in just what action are they taking to protect the other electoral officers who have just presided over this, what analysts have called a controversial election. So we are keenly monitoring developments from here on that matter. This is the second election official to to actually die just after the elections. The first official to pass away was from an area known as Embakasi East, whose body was found in Loitoktok area. And this has literally caused a lot of anxiety, especially among the electoral staff, on the safety and security, even as the Supreme Court carries on with receiving more of evidence from the petitioners.
Yes, my next question was going to, border on the security and safety of IEBC staff. Even the commission itself has said, they've been under attack, especially since petitions began filing in. But how are security authorities and operatives handling this, to guarantee the safety of these electoral officers?
Well, we've totally come to a position where elections are slowly degenerating into a matter of life and death for the simple reason of the high stakes the election has had in regards to putting people in power and also at the same time making those in power to exit power. So the electoral body is currently one of the focal points when you look at members of staff who are currently really vulnerable when it comes to attacks by the public or vendettas that could have arose from the election exercise that had happened. But we can report that for the IBC, they have continued to maintain that their staff are going to be given security and they will be guarded accordingly to ensure that nothing happens to them. On the other end, we've also seen the Azimio team, which is headed by the presidential candidate, that was Raila Odinga, calling on Kenyans to remain calm, even as they allow the investigating agencies as well as to allow the security agencies to do their work. But as all this is transpiring, of course, the big question is how safe are the officials for the IBC? And this remains to be a teething issue in the coming days and, of course, in the coming months. we don't have much information in regards to how secure are they in regards to a personal level. And of course, we definitely are keeping a close watch on this just to see what will be happening in the coming days.
All right then, Abi Agina, thank you. Kenyan journalist joining us there from Nairobi.
Thank you for having me.
Well, candidates running in Angola's election have ended their electoral campaigns ahead of Wednesday's vote. Well, this vote will determine whether or not President João Lourenço wins a second and final 5-year term in office.
Angolan presidential candidates have wrapped up a month-long campaign before the country heads to the polls on Wednesday. Analysts predict it is likely to be the tightest election since the first multi-party election in 1992. The MPLA, led by João Lourenço since 2017, has governed Africa's second biggest oil producer since independence from Portugal in 1975. But long-time opposition party UNITA is stronger than ever as anger grows at government failures to convert vast oil wealth into better living conditions for all. Wearing red and green, UNITA's colors, thousands of people gathered in the suburbs of the capital, Luanda, for the party's final rally. Speaking to the crowd, UNITA's leader, Adalberto Costa Jr., stressed the need for political change.
There is no democracy without a change in political power. There's no democracy. A democracy cannot be formed with the governance of political power continuously. It cannot be formed. But 47 years of exclusive power brought fears, brought vices, brought delays. And we have concluded today that the continuity of a single party in power corresponds to the postponement of Angola's development.
An Afrobarometer survey in May showed the number of Angolans favoring UNITA had increased to 22% from 13% in 2019. However, that's still 7 points behind the MPLA. Nearly half of voters are undecided. The MPLA held its last rally on Saturday, but Lourenço took part in an event on Monday focused on women's rights issues. He said voting is fundamental for the future of the country.
There have been exactly 5 years since the moment we started this mandate that is ending now. We worked during this mandate to make Angola a new Angola, an Angola that is better accepted by the Angolans, but also by the international community. Nobody in the world likes to bet on the worst. Everyone likes to bet on the best. So vote for the MPLA. Vote 8. Thank you very much, people of Luanda.
Fears of voter fraud have led UNITA to urge voters to remain near polling stations after they cast their ballot to monitor the election process. The Electoral Commission, which is mostly controlled by the MPLA, has said the election will be fair and transparent.
To health matters now, a new case of Ebola virus infection has been confirmed in the city of Beni in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The country's National Institute for Biomedical Research made the announcement. Well, 2 days earlier, the World Health Organization had said authorities were investigating a suspected case in Beni after the death of a 46-year-old woman who had shown symptoms consistent with the disease. All genetic sequencing also showed the case is linked to the 2018 to 2020 outbreak in North Kivu province, which killed nearly 2,300 people. Well, Ebola can sometimes linger in the eyes, central nervous system, and bodily fluids of survivors and flare up years later. Since 1976, the country has recorded 14 outbreaks. Still ahead on the program. The World Bank gives a $300 million grant to Mozambique. We'll give you more details after the break. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. A new record has been set for the number of migrants crossing the English Channel in a single day. Almost 1,300 made the crossing on the 22nd of August in 27 small boats. Well, critics say this proves people seeking asylum in the UK are not being deterred by the government's plan to send some of them to Rwanda. The UK government had said its plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda will discourage them from crossing this English Channel. However, in this year, more than 20,000 people said to have already made the journey. The Rwanda asylum plan is a 5-year trial that is to send some refugees to Rwanda to claim asylum there. They may be granted permanent refugee status to stay in Rwanda. If not, they can apply to settle there on other grounds or seek asylum in a safe third country. Well, the policy is aimed at people who arrive in the UK through what the government calls illegal, dangerous or unnecessary methods, such as on small boats or hidden in lorries. For joining us now for more discussions on this is immigration lawyer Dayo Fadino. Thank you, Mr. Fadino, for joining us on the program.
Oh, good afternoon, and also big good afternoon to your viewers, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, let's begin with your assessment of the UK government's Rwanda asylum plan. This was in place to, deter these migrants from crossing into the UK, but that doesn't seem to have worked.
All right. Yes. The British government send asylum seekers to Rwanda, and with that the policy they introduced some months ago to threaten that anybody who actually comes into the UK illegally would actually be sent to Rwanda to claim asylum has not worked at all. And I'm not surprised that it has not worked at all, because it seems the British government is not very, very you do not say, there's no way it would work because the number of people actually coming to the UK through the channels has actually increased over the last.
Well, we do apologize for that poor audio. We'll try and reconnect with Mr. Fadino. In the meantime, women do not have to... The UN Children's Agency, I beg your pardon, UNICEF, is warning that children in the Horn of Africa and the Sahel could die in devastating numbers unless urgent support is provided to them. Well, as severe malnutrition and the risk of waterborne diseases collide, or the number of drought-hit people in Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia without reliable access to safe water has risen from 9.5 million to 16.2 million in 5 months. Meanwhile, children in the Sahel are also said to be facing extremely high levels of water vulnerability. According to UNICEF, the number of drought-hit people in Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia without reliable access to safe water rose from 9.5 million in February to 16.2 million in July, putting children and their families in increased danger of contracting illnesses like cholera and diarrhea. Well, in the Sahel, in Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Niger and Nigeria, drought, conflict and insecurity are driving water insecurity, with 40 million children facing high to extremely high levels of vulnerability. Well, I understand we have immigration lawyer Dayo Fadino back online with us. Mr. Fadino, please continue. You were talking about, your assessment of the UK's government's Rwandan asylum plan, and, you said it's no surprise that this hasn't worked so far. But how really can this migrant crisis be curbed?
Well, the policy, the British government's policy right now to do with asylum seekers has not worked, and there are very many reasons, of which I will mention a few why they've not worked. Initially, when the UK was part of the EU, there was a very wild EU-wide deal that anybody who actually comes into the UK, either through the channel or illegally, and that person could have claimed asylum in a third country. The person would then actually be sent back to that third country to claim that asylum. But the moment we actually left the EU through Brexit, that plan ended. I mean, there's no way we would then be able to at least run our asylum policy within the EU, and nothing has actually been. It's not been replaced. That very particular policy has not been replaced as we speak. And secondly, you have situations where people come into the UK and they are of the big fear that because the UK is now threatening that they will be sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, there are so many people now taking advantage of the situation at this point, and to do their best to calm down as many as they could before that type of policy actually comes into effect. So that's another good reason. So I mean, it's not worked so far, and I cannot see it actually working at all. And it also seems that the British government is in shambles, really. The current British Prime Minister and his cabinet were not too clear what they should be doing to do with asylum seekers. And now that we have two contenders running for the position of Prime Minister, I cannot see anything different if any one of them should actually win the Tory party elections, I think sometime next week.
All right then, Mr. Dayo Fadino, immigration lawyer, thank you for your thoughts on the program. The United Nations mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, has built a new school and police post in Mvlolo, as in the western equatorial state. All the community bordering lake states suffered terribly during the crisis in South Sudan and continues to endure sporadic intercommunal tensions and cattle raids that have forced many to flee their homes and abandon their lands. Well, life is slowly returning to normal there with reduced tensions, but challenges such as education and healthcare remain. Therefore, UNMISS built them schools to contribute to peace building and also to encourage voluntary returns. The local community also joined in the construction efforts. While the UN peacekeeping mission also built a police post to reduce criminality and boost the rule of law. And according to the UN mission, these projects are about building durable peace and for this and future generation.
During our patrols, when we come here, we don't patrol only and go, but we see challenges. When we're able to see, when we pass from here from Mundri, coming from Volo, we see challenges in terms of children learning under trees. And therefore we pick it up during this cycle that why can't we put something in order for children to access quality education and be in a conducive learning environment. And as such, we put up this concept note and it is succeeded. And that is one of the fundamental rights of a child to have access to what? Education.
This police station is built for you, for one, to have a conducive environment to work. It is your duty to ensure that with this police station built for you, will also create a conducive relationship between you and the locals. Please, there shouldn't be any circumstances that you will make your presence in the police office become a difficult to the locals over here.
This project filling within the objective of the UNMISS mission to support the government, to provide a conducive learning environment, dignified returnees, but also to help them to recover and rebuild their lives.
The World Bank has given $300 million to Mozambique in a deal that marks the resumption of its support to the country 6 years after it suspended aid following a financial scandal that's involving the government. World Finance Minister Max Tornella says the funds disbursed by the multilateral organization in the form of a grant will be used for infrastructure projects to support the economy and improve the living conditions of the population. And that's all we have for you today on Network Africa. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.